69 runs, and he had 59 home runs. And he earned only $1,400 that year. And just think of nowadays, a horrible shortstop can make $1 million. You guys know who Sandy Koufax is, right? He played for the Los Angeles Dodgers in 1962, and he had the strikeout record for that year. He had 382. And Nolan Ryan broke that record with 383 strikeouts in a year. But in the record books, the real record was way back in 1886 by Matches Kilroy. And he struck out 505 batters. Now you have to understand, now the baseball rules that where the pitcher's mound is to home plate is 60 feet, 6 inches. And during Matches time, it was only 50 feet. It was a lot closer to the batter. Now back in the early time, they had rules that the rules were a little bit different. In around 1886, they had 3 balls, they give you a warning. In 1886, and the strikeouts were the same. You had 3 strikeouts, but you had to go up to 7 balls to get a walk. And it's interesting because in the statistics, a walk counted just as a hit, the same as a hit. So people had a lot of high averages. You had to understand that if they got walked, that counted just like a hit. In 1894, in the Baltimore Orioles, Bob's favorite team, your favorite team, 1894, the Baltimore Orioles were the first to develop the hit and run. You guys have heard of that. So there's a runner on base, and he takes off, and the person starts to get a hit. And also, they came up with a relay, where the ball hit in the outfield, an infielder would come and grab the cutoff to throw the ball somewhere else. Now, who knows what age Dummy Hoy entered the major leagues? No. 16? No. 25? No. 30? No. 27. He was 27 years old. So imagine. And he stole a total of 514 bases in his career. So just imagine if he started at the age of 20, he would probably have the record for stolen bases. In Baseball Digest, I read that it said that Dummy Hoy is fourth. He has the 4th highest stolen base percentage. Now, that's combined with the old records and the modern day records. He is the 4th highest stolen base percentage. First is Ricky Henderson. Second is Lou Brock. Third is Maury Wills. And Hoy is 4th. So, and why isn't he in the Hall of Fame? Panara knows. When he presents, he'll go into all that. That's something funny I want to share with you. This happened around the early 1900s, around 1920. Bill Clem, he was an umpire, famous umpire, one of the best umpires ever in history. He's in the Hall of Fame. He kind of stole some things from Dummy Hoy, and I'll let Bob tell you about that. This one particular day, he was in a bad mood. Upset about there's people going drawing back and forth during the game, so he came out and gave both teams a warning. He said, if you one more outburst from anybody, and I'm going to throw you out of the game. So one player from Pittsburgh came up to bat. And he was a rookie. And he was really nervous. And so he was a pinch hitter. This rookie was a pinch hitter, and they informed Bill about this. And this rookie was really scared, and Bill was telling him to get up to the plate. Come on, just quit wasting time. Get up to the plate. And he said, and so the rookie said, "Boo!" And Bill got really mad and threw him out of the game. And the manager came up to Bill and said, "What's wrong?" And Bill said, "I don't like that he said boo to me." And really, the guy's name is Everett Boo. He was telling Bill his name. And it's spelled B-O-O-E. But it's pronounced Boo. Bill didn't know that. Another one of my favorite stories. You guys know the 7th inning stretch, right? So during the 7th inning, you get up and stretch. Do you know how that was originated? Now you're close. President Taft went to a baseball game and was sitting down. And President Taft was a tall man. He was 6'5". He was really big. And he was watching the game. And he was the first president ever to throw out the first pitch. He was sitting there watching the game, and people were looking at him during the game. And during the 7th inning, Taft was really tired from sitting the whole game, so he stood up and stretched. And everybody else watching him followed him, stood up with him and stretches the same. And so that's how it started, and it's been today. In 1962, the New York Mets lost 120 games. A lot of people remember that. And they only won 40. But in the record books, in 1899, a team from Cleveland lost 134 games and won only 20. And that was a winning percentage of around 13%. So Cleveland's the worst team ever in history. In the first World Series was 1884. You guys who know who played in it? It was the New York Mets versus the Providence Grays. And that time it wasn't called the World Series, it was called the Temple Cup. And then in 1901 they changed it to the World Series. I'm going to tell you one of my favorite stories pertaining to Yogi Berra. He played for the Yankees. And one time he went into a restaurant and he asked for a medium-sized pizza. And the waitress said okay, and they served it up to him. And they called over Yogi, and he asked what was wrong. He said, "You ready?" He asked, "Do you want me to slice it up into 4 slices or 8 pieces?" He said, "No, it'd be better if 4 pieces, because I can't eat 8 pieces." Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed the rest of your one more thing. Oh, I forgot one more thing. when Project Graybill is all done, we have a bunch of pictures here of Dummy Boy. You guys can come up and look at it after the presentation.
Excuse me. Sorry, I was late. I got lost. I had to go to my car. Good. Found the box. I asked the woman, where is the dining hall? Why over there? Oh. Line of people. God. God. Nobody signed it. Finally served myself 15 to 2. Hurry up and eat. You've been invited. Someone over here. Always getting lost. Absent-minded prof, that's me. Thank you for putting up with me and putting it off, thank you. I have handouts also. Pick them up later. I want to know if my voice reaches you in the back, okay? People told me I always have a good stage whisper. Talking about William Dummy Hoy, born 1861 in Taunton, Ohio. He became deaf from, well, they called it before, scarlet fever. Some said spinal meningitis, but that was all too. Grew up fine boy. He went to the Ohio School for the Deaf. Steve explained the importance of Ohio in baseball history. So natural that the Ohio School for the Deaf became first school for the deaf to establish baseball team. And Hoy went there, played the baseball, and he learned many things, even the science. We don't have proof. There's a lot of things missing in researching about Hoy. A lot. But we have a feeling that the coach of the team, who was a printing teacher named George Pratt, taught the signs safe strike. Oh, I picked that up. He went home, he learned the trade of shoe making, made his own shoes for the family, friends, and sons. And on Saturdays, he would go out and play baseball with hearing kids. He became so good that scouts began going and watching him. Finally, later on, won the scout from our cup team in Wisconsin offered him a contract. Boy, went to Wisconsin, started 1887. He did so well that attracted the eye of scout from Washington senators. Reached big leagues now. First league, not very good. They had only one umpire in those days, only one. Usually stood behind the plate. If somebody got on base, umpire would move behind So pitchers became wide covered, and I began to quick pitch to him. Pitch! His batting average after 1 month went down around 200. One day, Hoy thought to solve this problem. His coach got third base because he could see. Left-handed can see third base easily. Coach, I want you to use the right hand for a strike. Left hand, run. The coach went to third base. Thereafter, Hoy would bat. Look, pitch the pitch. No strike or no ball. Batting average went up. He became a real star. In that first year, he stole 86 bases. And he went on to steal many more. I have over here my sheet of statistics. 607. 607 stolen bases. But I tell you the truth. I read over 10 different baseball encyclopedias. Only 2 or 3 are the same, or varied. So Steve had a different number. What number you had? 517. Oh, whatever it is, 517, 598, 607. Still very high percentage, like he said. So high that several books rank him 17th in all-time list. 17th. He's talking about percentage. That's wonderful. 4th in percentage. But total 17th, which is still wonderful. Anyway, Hoy went on for 1 for 3 years in Washington. During one game, he played center field. He was a marvelous outfielder. He was only 5 feet 5. Weighed 155 pounds, that's all. Fast like the wind, fast. 1 for assists. He led the league in throwing assist pro man at second base or third base, home plate. In one game, he played center field, man on third base, fly ball. Perfect strike to home plate. Later on, 5th inning, same thing, man on third base, batter hits the fly, Hoy runs, catches it to home, perfect strike. Again, 8th inning. 3 men at home plate in one game. Real record. I've never been broken, never. Who was the captain? Famous player and manager named Connie Mack.
Wow.
And Connie Mack learned sign language. In fact, 2 other famous players and future managers and club owners also learned sign language from Hoy. One was Clark Griffith of later on Washington Senators. The other one was Charles Comiskey. to the team, Cincinnati. He always could get more money. He was always wise with his money. In those days, ball players get the money and spend it at night, Saturday night, drinking at the bar, dancing like that. Boy, and put his money in stock market. Explain more. With this team, Cincinnati, very successful too. Went on to many more batting average, stealing bases, assists from the outfield. One of his weaknesses, but you can't really blame him. He was deaf. He could talk, but he didn't want to talk. And when people called him dumb, he said, it's okay with me. I like the name Dummy. Probably make me more famous. Anyway, his weakness, he was too modest. Never liked to talk about himself. No ego, nothing. And a little bit of introvert, a little bit. Can you see me? Modest, introvert, so reporters, baseball writers, that they're difficult to communicate with him quickly. Avoided him, would interview other players. So he didn't get very much write-ups in the newspaper, except when he made great plays, or threw 3 men out, or something like that. But one day, one reporter would meet him, and he said, "Look, I'd like to interview you." "Oh, you want to interview me?" he said. Reporter. He looked around and said to the manager, "I don't know, he can't speak." He said, "Yes, but I can't read." But he can't speak, write, and read, he can't. Boy, played altogether 14 years, 1888 to 1902. He finished his career with Chicago White Sox. That time, Charles Comiskey was manager and owner. He was second man in the new American League to hit a grand slam home run. He was not really a home run hitter, but happened for that day, early in the season, opening week of American League, which was new. The National League was older. Boy, met deaf woman, Maria Law. She was a speech teacher, deaf, but she taught lip reading and speech. The oral school, but that was the trend in many other private schools before. Married. On his wedding day, he presented his bride watch, check for $5,000. Imagine that, something like $1895, $5,000, the word today. And in those days, baseball players would earn $7,000, $8,000, $10,000 at the most. Wise investment. And using his money wisely. When he retired, he bought a dairy farm in Ohio. One of his, he had 4 children. One of his sons, Carson, became very successful lawyer. Another one whom he always called my son, really he was adopted. When his sister was in an auto accident, died. Husband had died before, so boy adopted him. His name was Paul Helms. That boy, nephew, really grew up. Later on, very successful businessman, established a wide chain of bakeries in California, and established the Paul Helms Sports Foundation to promote sports, especially baseball. Boy lived a life, took work every day, 4, 5, 6 miles. He lived to be, he wanted to live 100. He lived to be 6 months short and died 1962, 6 months short, 99 and 1/2. Before he died, it was about 1944 in Akron, Ohio. I'd probably bust a code for the deaf over there. Akron had been very successful town making automobile tires and rubber. And during 2 world wars, 1941 to 45, during the World War and II, many deaf saw with good money because hearing men were being drafted to the army. So many deaf men, women too, flocked to Akron. Developed a wonderful club there, baseball team and basketball team, and established the AAAD Baseball Hall of Fame. The first person chosen, Tommy Boy. He was to the deaf like George Washington was to people of the time. Second person chosen was a deaf man named Luther Donald Taylor, who pitched for the New York Giants. I will reach that after a while. Boy, his nephew, Paul Helms Boy, tried hard, and with his name influence, he was trying very, very hard to get Boy in Baseball Hall of Fame. Fair. The AAAD during 1960s and 70s joined with him and tried often to get Boy in Baseball Hall of Fame. Fair. 1990, AAAD, Helms passed away. AAAD, they wanted to continue this, but there was no committee. So they asked if we could establish a committee. I was a member of that for a long time. Except volunteered me Randy Fisher of Philadelphia, Steve Sandy of Ohio. We got T.T. Wright for our own small committee. Later on, a group. And then we started the campaign again. Statistics. He was always on the ballot, but he never was picked for induction. 1994, I wrote to President of the Hall of Fame. I wanted to have a meeting in person and find out what's going on. We found a date during spring, late spring. Randy Fisher came, Steve Sandy came, my son, John, who always helped, he came as an interpreter. We met with Bill Gill who formerly had been PR for both Pittsburgh Pirates and New York Yankees baseball man. He was not the president. President couldn't make the meeting. He was assistant. We met with him in Cooper's time. He said, we know how hard you have been trying with your committee. We have all those letters. We get them. We give them to the Veterans Committee, Baseball Veterans Committee. And now it's out of our hands. 15 wise men always vote and choose who will be in the Hall of Fame. He said that's a big problem because 7 in that committee, 7 are ex-baseball players, Hall of Fame members. The other 5 sports writers and 3 former CEOs. Mostly those players like to vote for that who played with or during that time. The Old Boys Club. And that was going on and on and on. So he said, keep trying. We did. I kept trying. He talked about my favorite baseball team, Baltimore Orioles. Why? I grew up in New York City. I was Yankee fan. Was. Through high school. I didn't know of high school for the deaf. After I became deaf at 10, I didn't know. So I stayed in public school. I could read and write. One with my hearing friends after school walked to Yankee Stadium and sat in the bleachers, and I saw Lou Gehrig, Joe DiMaggio. Later on, my family moved to Massachusetts. I lived there 50 miles south of Boston. We went a few times a year, that's all. It was still that's part of the Depression. Then later on, I went to Genesee College, graduated. Later on, taught New York School for the Deaf. And then Genesee asked me to go back to teach fine. Well, now, teach in Washington, lived in Maryland. First, we supported the Washington Senators. John, my son, go, see, Senators. Then the twins were formed in Minneapolis and took the team to Minnesota. Old St. Louis Browns folded and became the Baltimore Orioles. Fine, I lived only 20 miles from Baltimore. Thereafter, we went to Baltimore. John fell for the third baseman named Brooks Robinson. So one day I had a baseball. Sunday after the game, we waited for Brooks to come out. He came out, said, "Hey, pardon me, Brooks, my son John is admires your play. Would you please sign the ball for him? Brooks, you deaf? Hey, you know, sign. Wait a minute. I forgot. Sign, but I can't think it's spelled well. And, how did it happen? He said, I was born and grew up in Little Rock, Arkansas, near the school for the deaf. And we played baseball with the deaf as kids. So I learned finger spelling and some signs. I said, that's great. And several weeks later, I hooked him. Would you like to be on my committee for Dummy Hoy? Yeah, we got Senator Tom Hawkins from Iowa. Know him? Yeah, the Duff brother. And quite several others, famous writers. No luck getting Hoy in the Hall of Fame. By 2000, I began to feel I suspect the problem is, he named it, man named Bill Curran, most famous umpire in baseball history. Born in Rochester, but he didn't grow up here. Bill Curran was a great umpire, no question, yeah. And when he was chosen for the Hall of Fame, they engraved his plaque, hung it up in the Hall of Fame. I've been there, I took pictures, and it says, and Karam is credited with introducing signals for strikes and foul balls. That damn sentence. For introducing signals for strikes. Sorry to say, not true. Karam started umpiring in the Major League 1905. Hoy retired 1902. What does that mean? The problem is no documentation, none. Nothing has been put black and white that proof during a certain game, a certain time, the umpire behind the plate. What was the problem? Boy, very modest man. What he done, I told you at the beginning. Told the third base coach, I'm bad. Pitch. And that's what they did. That was documented. But we have a feeling some years told umpire, why don't you do that behind the plate? Especially before they invented the electric scoreboard. Balls, strike, you know, because 1888 to 1901, there was no electric scoreboard. So umpire say, strike! Good people hear that. Candy Hatfielders hear that. There's a big void. No, Matthew Moore, president and publisher of Tough Life magazine, folded. He was sick and many problems. Some of his people quit, but he's reviving it again. I think it will start in the winter, January, February. Anyway, we, the committee, got him interested to back us up. And now with one woman, he is writing a book about Roy. We gave him all our statistics, everything. So, Matthew Moore, I read 2 drafts of the book. The third one is coming. Trying hard to. So, even though there is no real proof that some year, sometime while Roy played, he told umpire to still. There are many great base players. Honus Wagner, Sam Crawford, Clark Griffith, Connie Mack, all have said in print that Roy invented the science for strike, safe, and out. So we hope this book is going to send it free to baseball committee or the fan committee. Hope they will read and really read. Thank you. I'm open for a question. Can't say your side.
Where was he born in Ohio?
Hookstown. It's not far from Toledo, and not far from went back to electricity. Thomas Edison. Hookstown, how do you pronounce it? Hookstown, I don't know.
Does Hoy have any surviving family left now?
2 great granddaughters, and both have been interviewed, and they have some valuable things. They are giving them to Gallaudet University, because Gallaudet has a place to preserve them. So, but later on, if he's inducted in the Hall of Fame, later on.
Did you meet Dummy Hoy?
Died 1961, 62. I didn't really start to research famous stuff people until 1970.
Have you met his children?
Oh, yes, one, yes. Mildred Slocum one great granddaughter. It was 1992. Our committee succeeded and got Toy in the Ohio Baseball Hall of Fame. It was one for ceremony in Toledo to have baseball museum. All four players from Cincinnati Reds and Cleveland Indians. In 1992, they welcomed to have Boy in beautiful plaque photograph uniform day at a wonderful ceremony. Bob Phillip came, Johnny Bench came, with one or two others came. It was nice. And we had ceremony on the baseball field of Toledo in the evening. Afternoon inside the museum. Night on the baseball field. And his great granddaughter came. So I think time to turn it over to Pat Graybill.
Thanks, Bob.
Remember, don't forget to look at all the papers that we have up here. There, you can take some with you. At 3:30, we'll have a tour with an interpreted tour. Just to let you know, at 3:30. And we have a couple pictures, some old-time pictures. Got from eBay, or baseball cards that I found, took some pictures. And they were in old tobacco pouches, and so I found those. Now, Patrick Graybill. The one and only.
Where, can you see me better here or over here? Which is, can you see me all right here? Yes? No? Maybe? Good, good. So both Steve and Dr. Panara have talked a lot about baseball. And they're mentioning a lot of historical dates, 1880s, 1890s, and right around that period. You know, the committee was talking about asking me to give a little bit of a presentation about what was life like back in the 19th century, right in that time period that they're talking about. You know, it's late 1800s. Well, you know I'm a very busy person. And I asked the committee, is it all right if somebody does a little research and gives it to me to look over so I can learn something? And the committee also asked Aaron Kelstone. He's a teacher over at NTID to do a little bit of research and put it all together. And I started getting an image in mind. You know, deaf baseball players, that's a great thing, but what about the other deaf people? What were they doing during that time? So I wanted to start with myself portraying Laurent Clair. Laurent Clair, born in a very small town in France, La Bienne. Paris is up here, it's in the south somewhat, and his father was mayor of the town. He was a lawyer. And as a child, I would sit in my high chair near the open fire. One day the chair fell over, No one really knows exactly why, but I was burned on the side of my cheek, and it left a scar. Now, people in Europe at that time, they had assumed that deafness was caused through a disease. They never thought that a person could be born deaf. It never occurred to them. So the father realized that maybe that's the reason my son is deaf, because he had fallen into the fire. So he went to school, was sent to school in Paris. Fate had planned this. He had studied to become a teacher. Thomas Gallaudet from Hartford, Connecticut, was sent to Europe to find how to better educate deaf children. And upon arrival, wasn't very successful in finding someone who could teach in England, so went over to Paris, where he met me. He observed me teaching on many occasions, and then asked me to go across the ocean to America. Now, of course, my mother was greatly concerned. America, full of the Indians. It's a savage country. But I assured her, I'll just go for a short time and I'll be right back. I never came back. Even though I did visit on occasion, I stayed in the U.S. The ship journey took days and days through storms, and I learned English during that journey, and also taught sign language to Thomas Gallaudet. And once we arrived, well, we had left France in June of 1816. Took 50 days to arrive. And then for several months, Thomas and I toured the area trying to collect funds from people that we knew. Maybe 20 years before that, no, 15 years before that, a father of a deaf child named Graybill had done a survey and found that approximately 70 deaf people were living in the New England area. So that was sort of proof for Gallaudet that it was time to establish a school for those 70 people. That following March, 1817, the two of us announced that we had established a school for deaf people. Each student would receive $200 a year, $200 for room and board, laundry, health care, supplies, paper, pens, $200 a year. Now that was April 1817 that was established. And the entering number of students, can you guess how many there were? Any ideas? 3, 5? Any ideas? 7. And the month before that we had announced that the school was going to be, and that we had to have $200, they had to be over the age of 9. So the first students, those first 7 students, ranged in age from 12 to 51. That gave me time to think. 51. Going into on the first day of school, it's never too late to learn. And to follow that schedule that they had established at the school was a very, very full day. And I'll give you a little bit more information about what that was like. They would get up, well, how many of you went to a residential school? Would you raise your hand? What time did you tend to get up in the morning? 7, oh great, good. 6, 7, nice, 6, 7, Steve. I was at 6 myself. I went to the Kansas School for the Deaf. We were up at 6. And I think the schedule back then in the 1800s maybe had an impact on future schools because they wanted to keep the kids busy for the entire day. So they would start at 6 in the morning. They'd have breakfast at 6:30. Okay, breakfast at 6:30. Then they would go for a lecture for 15 minutes. And the lecture would be about what to do with their life and so forth. 15 minutes, and then school would start at 8 o'clock and last until 1 in the afternoon. So 8 to 1 with only a 15-minute break at 10:30. Just a short 15-minute break. Then they would have lunch, 1:15. Then after that, they would go to vocational classes. At that time, the jobs for deaf people were basically cobblers, shoemakers, stitchers, people learning how to do different types of crafts, cooking. That's what they would do for the entire afternoon to prepare them for once they graduated in their future jobs. At that time, they didn't have printing. It was primarily tailors, shoemakers, and so forth. And knitting. And then at 6 o'clock, they would have study hall till 8. Then in bed by 9:30. And think of a person 51 going to bed at 9:30. Then breakfast. I don't know if any of you would be tempted by this type of food. They would have oatmeal or grits with milk. And then they would have some butter with molasses poured over the top, some beef. This is in the morning. And then at 1 o'clock, 1:15, they would have mutton or beef, potatoes, vegetable, stewed fruits. And then at 6 o'clock, they would have milk, bread, butter, stewed fruit, and that was it. So the biggest meal at noon, yep. And very light in the evenings. And bed at 9:30. $200. So, once deaf people started graduating that first school in 1817, then by 1900, there was a total of 56 schools that had been established within that amount of time. Many had graduated from the American School for the Deaf and then moved on to New York or moved on to Kentucky and set up different schools for the deaf. And the graduates were the teachers. So, and again, training them for vocational type of jobs and also to become teachers of the deaf. And then up until 1856, almost 41% of teachers of the deaf were deaf themselves. That's a large number. Then, once oralism started in Europe, and people were teaching, it was very important to teach deaf children how to speak, that had an enormous impact. And then when Gallaudet University College at that time was established in 1864, Gallaudet University College encouraged deaf people to not become teachers. It's not really a job or career for you. They would encourage people to go into, during the Industrial Revolution, going into printing, helping in factories, making cars, very popular jobs. Because deaf people started migrating into the cities to get work as printers and in factories, they were leaving the rural areas. Before that, they were very isolated and tend to keep in touch with each other through magazines. The Silent Worker was one magazine. Now they were all in the big city, working together at the print shop or in the factory making cars. So they started establishing clubs for the deaf. And that really continued, that socialization of getting together really continued from their days at school. So they would go to work at the factory, printing or whatever, with all their hearing colleagues, and then completing their job, they would go on to the deaf club and interact with their deaf friends. Because of the deaf clubs, they would get into sports like basketball, boxing, the old-fashioned kind of bicycles that you see. Like you saw with the one big wheel, they would have a bicycle club that was very popular at those times. Deaf clubs also would do a lot of short plays and skits. They would have art shows. After the Civil War, Gallaudet College was established at about that same time that the oral method of teaching was really beginning to spread. And that was having a big impact, as I mentioned. So there was some real struggles between oralism and manualists, words that were popular back then. So Laurent Clerc left France, came to the U.S., confronted the Indian savages in their country, and 2 years later got married to a deaf woman, Elizabeth Boardman. Gallaudet did not encourage him to get married because he was afraid that they would start having deaf children and start generations of deaf people. But this was 1860. A.G. Bell, Alexander Graham Bell, had encouraged this eugenics, which was kind of fostering that controversy. And that controversy, that struggle, is never ending. Aristotle, the philosopher, long ago said, if a person is deaf, they can't think. And of course, today, we celebrate that deaf people can do anything. Baseball, basketball, leadership, deaf presidents. Deafness is just...
Okay. Special thank you to the committee. You did a great job this year. And Maureen Richard. Stand up. Carmen Sierra. Bob Panara. Patrick Graybill. And myself. All right. Oh, on a big special thank you to Maria Neal. The committee started getting together 6 months ago. And wonderful meetings, lunches, and eating together. And one person who drinks wine all the time, every all the time. And then we, after the meeting, we did email. I'm sick of emails. Getting the list day in and day out. Like, oh, don't remember to bring this, don't forget this. Just going around in circles. I get sick of that. And thank God we have a video relay. So I imagine probably what happened back in the old times. But I'm really happy we have video relay. That solves many problems. In the 19th century, like, coming here today, just looking around, I can't imagine how much fun. You know, part of that game today was Bob Wilson going out trying to catch that ball, and then fell down as he caught it. And Ron, wait, he disappeared. There's Ron. Sit back down. And Ron. That poor error. That was very exciting. Poor error. Honestly, every player talked about that game. All had smiles on their faces. Everybody involved. You know, I have people coming up to me. A lot of people came up to me and wanted to start, and said how they wanted to start a league next year. Will contact me and Connie and discuss starting a league, and I definitely agree. And don't forget, 3:30 we have a tour, an interpreted tour. And we still have the papers up here, and there's some papers that Bob Panara had that you can take with you. Thank you so much for coming.